Good morning, everybody. This is Lindsay Huddleston with Sports Psychology Solutions. Back at it again for another Monday motivation. Excited to be here. I had a really great weekend, very productive and restful and relaxing at the same time, if there can ever be a thing. Good morning, Michelle. Glad to have you here at 7 a.m. bright and early for the Monday motivation. I appreciate your ongoing support. We are going to be talking about fantasy versus fulfillment. Fantasy versus fulfillment. Michelle, I was just telling the viewers or whoever may watch this again about the great weekend I have had. Very productive but restful and relaxing all in the same, but had some great time to reflect. And when I reflected on my life, based on my commitment and the goals I have, that also would potentially have a positive impact on the lives of those who view and support SPS and what's going on. Fantasy versus fulfillment. Michelle, I'm very careful with words. I try to do my best to know the real meaning of words. I know just the general nature of humans is that we're very casual when it comes to things, but I try to go and look up words that are on my mind because if I look them up and I get an exact definition, it can help me in navigating not just things from my life, but hopefully things that can positively impact others. Because here at SPS, with the work I do, whether I'm going and covering a high school or collegiate game, I want to capture and share inspiration. I want to capture the inspiration that sports brings and share it to keep people inspired. So, with that, when you talk about fantasy, the word fantasy is defined as imagination, especially when extravagant and unrestrained. Imagination. So we know with our imagination there's so many places we can go, so many things we can do with our imagination, just like a child. But also, I think it's important to talk about with fantasy, you also talk about the extravagant, which is great, whether it's what you can get, what you can experience. But the other part that's key in fantasy is that it's unrestrained. Unrestrained. Now, unrestrained can be good in some cases, but when I hear the word unrestrained, I'm a little cautious. I'm a little cautious when I hear about unrestrained because unrestrained can lead to negative things happen when we have no restraint, when we just let things go, whether it's in our personal life, whether it's the way we indulge in things, whether it's in relationships. There also has to be some kind of connection to kind of keep things together. Now, when you go the opposite of that, if you will, or if you go over to the term fulfillment, fulfillment is defined as the achievement of something desired, promised, or predicted. I think it's really important that we make sure that we know the difference between a fantasy and being fulfilled. Many of us have these fantasies, and I'm sure we all have fantasies as humans. That's just the nature of being a human and having a brain and to be able to connect with a level of consciousness. You have these fantasies, these things you want. But sometimes I think the fantasies that we have get so caught up in our day to day that we misunderstand and misconstrue what we really are trying to achieve. Because sometimes we think we want the fantasy when we really need to focus on being fulfilled. I have to ask you this question. It may not be an answer you can give right now, but it may take some time to think. If your fantasies were to come true, if your fantasies were to come true, would you be fulfilled? Would you be fulfilled? And I guess the reverse would be if you were fulfilled, would those things be the fantasy that made you fulfilled? Would it be that? You know, all I want us to do is I'm not trying to be a dream killer. I tell the young people I work with all the time, I'm a dream clarifier. I'm just trying to clarify something to you to let you know and understand that we have these fantasies, these extreme, extravagant things that we want. And I'm not saying you shouldn't want that. But my question is, does your fantasy really get you fulfilled? Is your fantasy, for example, when I was in the Marine Corps in boot camp, I didn't think I'd tell this story, but I've always had a sweet tooth. And I would say even at 44, I still have a sweet tooth. But in boot camp, it was like, man, and we were limited to what we can get because we were going through basic training and things like that. Well, if you've ever been in boot camp or anything like that, there's a time when the people who are going through the process end up going and doing work at the place. For example, we had different jobs. Some people were doing, working outside in the grass on the grass. Some people were painting, and I happened to be in the mess hall. Actually, I was in the bake shop, and the title I had was Bake Shop Honcho. Remember, I was the head dude in charge for the bake shop. Now, God, this is a guy with a sweet tooth, and you put me in charge of the cookies, right? I never forget this. I never forget this. That would have been my fantasy, to just be able to roll in the dough, literally, cookies, sweets, and all that, especially during the difficult time of Marine Corps boot camp. But what happened, this is amazing. I learned a valuable lesson. Because I was so engulfed and so caught up and around all these sweets, all these cookies, where I could just grab something and guys were like, man, get what you want. I lost my desire for them. I lost my desire for the sweets because I was overwhelmed with the meaning. My fantasy, it came true. I was living in the bake shop. I could have anything I want. And even when I went through through the line during chow, and other guys who were, on my team and part of my squad were like, Huddleston, you want extra cookies? I was like, man, I don't want any. So what I'm saying sometimes, that we have these fantasies that we want, and because they're fantasies, we don't think about how they can actually happen. And we always say, oh, if I just only had this, I'll be happy. But you have to ask yourself, does your fantasy provide fulfillment? Was I going to be fulfilled? Was I really going to be fulfilled if I had, a cookie for every hour of the day? I would have been fat, but not necessarily fulfilled. And I think that's something we have to look at. And because you're focused on being fulfilled, it doesn't take away from what your fantasy should be. It shouldn't take away from that. And I think so many times our fantasies are always involving other people, meaning if I have this, if I can show up looking like this, if I can accomplish this, it will have this impact on other people. I'm just telling you that if you want to be limitless, and I just heard this recently when I was listening to some positive things this morning, you can't be afraid about what people think or say. So many of our fantasies are intertwined with what other people think and what other people say. So many things that we think we really want have something to do with getting some kind of validation from someone else, from some other group, from some other name, as opposed to saying, this is who I am, this is what I want to accomplish, this is what's going to fulfill me. So it's something to think about for you guys today on this Monday Motivation. I'm not going to go too long. I just really want to put that out there, and hopefully that could be something that can help you guys as you start out this week. Things are changing, man. Can you believe we're in October? I was just sitting here with you, and we were dealing with the coronavirus pandemic breaking in March, and here it is October. So look how much time has flown. I hope that between that time in March and now that you've made a decision about some things you wanted to work on, because we all know between March and October, so many things could have happened and so many things have happened. For me personally, in my business and my growth, a lot of things have happened, but a lot had to do with me just staying the course, staying positive, continue to work hard, continue to try to put out a good product, continue to believe in myself, continue to know what's going to fulfill me. And your fulfillment won't always be a fantasy. So with that, this will be a short day, but that's okay. It doesn't mean it has to be short in the impact it can have on you, the impact you can have on others. So as you go out here in this October, and as we lose that summer weather and get cooler and colder, let's just be mindful that we got to do the right thing. Got to stay masked up, got to stay healthy, got to stay positive. And look at where we were in March and look at where we are now. You know some great things are on the horizon. I want to wish you guys the best. Fantasy versus fulfillment. There's nothing wrong with a fantasy, but just make sure you're fulfilled. So with that, you guys have a great day. This is Lindsey Huddleston with SPS, another SPS Monday Motivation. Blessings to you.